So I feel like we have a video game showcase problem in this industry, and it's right now where we're feeling the pain most of no E3 being a thing. Now, I do think some people look at the E3 era with rose-tinted glasses. I mean, for a lot of people working in games, myself especially, this was the North Star. This is what you worked toward, was to make it to E3. And when I got there in 2016, it was one of the most validating things I've done with my entire life. I just couldn't believe I had made it. There was a status to E3, and as they gradually opened it up to the public more and more people could get in. It wasn't such an exclusive thing, so many people could realize that dream. But what E3 really symbolized was a week of just constant game announcements, and everyone was competing for airtime, for headspace, and it was easy to miss big game announcements because of how much was happening. And I also think some people forget that back then we did get our duds of showcases and duds of announcements. But over the last, I'd say, almost a decade now, we've seen a dramatic transformation in how video game showcases are handled, really following the path that Nintendo walked in with their Direct. Now we have State of Plays. Now we have Developer Directs. Now we have Summer Showcases. We have Summer Games Fest. Now we have the Ubisoft Forward. We have all these companies doing their own things on their own time because the business has grown, and a lot of these companies don't want to share the space with other companies and great looking games that may steal some hype or some attention away from the thing they've spent years on. So from a business side, it makes sense. But from a consumer, if anything, and I just want to make it clear here, that I didn't want this video to come across like a response video to my last upload with the State of Play, where I know a lot of people were not thrilled that I was not losing my mind over the State of Play. I don't think I was shouting from the rooftops how amazing it was, but I do notice in that video and in the comments, there is this growing fatigue, this growing sense of irritation with these tiny bite-sized showcases, and that our expectations are being geared lower and lower, where there was a time with E3 that they could go sky high and anything could happen. At the same time, I would say leak culture has really killed a lot of those hype announcements. The fact that we know about like another Doom, the potential showing of a Perfect Dark, I think these real big wow moments does take some wind out of the sails of these showcases, and there's no real getting around that. We can talk about that separately, but to me, the real problem lies in the fact of how showcases are structured, even to the point that we have big summer showcases like Summer Games Fest, which you can usually count on for a number of big announcements and big reveals. Jeff Keighley saying right now that you shouldn't expect any real big game reveals. And that already kind of confirms a sort of mid showcase going in. As someone who can gear their expectations properly and go, hey, you know what, let's just see updates on current games. Cool. But we do see this more and more and more. And it's because right now, coming up, we just had the State of Play. Then you have Summer Games Fest. Then you have the Xbox Showcase. You have Ubisoft Forward. You have all these companies that are making like third-party marketing deals. Maybe some games are going to show up on the Xbox Showcase when they could have shown up over on Jeff Keighley's stage. You have the Nintendo Direct, which is also going to nab up some partners of their own. And so everyone's trying to take bites of the same pie, and that's leading to very little being left. And so all these big reveals that used to be crammed in 1 to 2 showcases are now spread out across 5, 6, and many people don't have time for it. That's why I personally always make those showcase reaction videos, not just only because I want to talk about what I saw and what I thought was cool or what I didn't like, but also because I notice more and more people want those videos because they don't want to watch these showcases because no one has the time or the patience or the energy for the crap that's being thrown out there. So I just wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about the showcase situation and where we're at in this industry, talk about what Jeff Keighley said about the upcoming Summer Games Fest. So let's get into it. I want to keep our track here on Summer Games Fest because this idea was fully fortified after a weekend of kind of spinning my wheels on it. When this clip of Jeff Keighley came out, and we have the quote here from Rock Paper Shotgun, who says, during the session, Keighley confirmed that a lot of games wouldn't be on the show. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, aka the MGS3 remake, will not be shown. Kingdom Hearts 4 is also off the table, as is The Wolf Among Us 2. Neither should we expect anything about the upcoming Bioshock-like shooter Judas, nor anything on future Five Nights at Freddy's games. Keighley contrasted the Summer Games Fest with its other big shows, the Game Awards, which is normally the place for reveals, he says. The Game Awards usually has a lot of big surprises. We're thankful for those and big new reveals. This Summer Games Fest is largely focused on announced stuff. This isn't the first time we've heard Keighley talk about this before, And I do think there is a place for a showcase to have announced stuff. But some people I saw in response to this news is going, why say any of this at all? And I think it's because Keighley's been very guilty in the past of overhyping his showcases or teasing and then disappointing. And so continuing on here, he says there are definitely things that are being announced, but this is not a show that has a lot of like coming in 2026 or 2027 or teasers for games that are years and years out. That's generally what I would say in the terms of expectation setting. The article goes on to mention a lot of what I said, where how a lot of these events have dissolved, and in turn, a lot of people aren't going to Jeff Keighley. But Keighley did highlight some games that would make an appearance, however, including Dino Punching Hunt 'em Up, Monster Hunter Wilds, Medieval RPG, Kingdom Come 2 Deliverance, and Metaphor ReFantazio, the upcoming fantasy JRPG from the creators of Persona. That's the other thing I found kind of strange, is there was always a lot of secrecy around these showcases, you know, keeping things close to the chest, but more and more it's becoming, as I talked about with the Game Awards, very blatant marketing focused shows. And that's always been the case. These showcases have always been put on for marketing, for creating buzz, for creating hype, at the same time as also intriguing potential investors. But now it's becoming more and more obvious when we're pre-announcing things at a showcase, which used to be like a very much a sacred gaming ritual. Like for me with E3, I always remember during the summer, I would invite my friends over. We get like soda, pizza, we'd park it on the couch in my basement. And on Spike TV, we would watch a lot of the E3 showcases. I would sit there with my laptop open. I'd live tweet the event because I thought everyone cared about what I had to say for some reason and didn't just make a video about it. I decided to live tweet the whole thing. And I just remember going into those so blind. And that was during a time where I worked in the industry, so I was always keyed in on leaks and rumors. But that kind of transitions to the other thing that has created a bit of a game showcase issue. So, for example, leaks and rumors were surrounding the state of play. And that was something that was being built up as a, quote, PlayStation showcase from leaks and rumors, but was announced as a state of play, which to me gauged my expectations as this will be something smaller. Now, state of play is definitely capable of more, but that's when I see that, I immediately go, okay, this is going to be a smaller thing. This isn't going to be like a PlayStation showcase, where I've certainly voiced my disappointment with the last two, where I think PlayStation's put on some real duds. Nonetheless, there's something to be said about by the way, I take full ownership that I'll cover these leaks when they're out, but I'm not breaking the leaks myself. But that these leaks do hurt the excitement around the showcase. I know for the state of play, the entire list leaked. And for me, at least, I'm just saying, announcements like Dynasty Warriors Origins would have been a pretty big deal, because I thought that game looked sick. And maybe I would have hit harder if I didn't already see the name on a list and kind of get in my head like, oh, I might see Dynasty Warriors today. You know, we have leakers like Midori, who originally was covering things like Sega, going out into now Square Enix and even Nintendo territory. And they've been talking a lot about, say, Dragon Quest, and how what was originally an HD 2D remake of Dragon Quest 3 has now spanned into a trilogy. And like, that would have been a really cool reveal to have found out on my own. But now you start to put the pieces together. Oh, there's a connection to Nintendo. Okay, so this is probably going to be at the Nintendo Direct. And so that kind of takes away a bit of the surprise and the excitement of, oh, right, I forgot I was excited about this game, right? Because that goes back to now the Summer Games Fest, where for me at least, I don't mind showcases based around things I already know, because there are announcements from years ago. I think of like the BioShock game from Cloud Chamber. I've wanted to see that one for a while. Will it look good or not? Who knows? But that's been announced for a while. So that showing up is a kind of meaningful reveal in a sense, even if it's already been announced. So there is a place for that. And hearing showcases only about announced things doesn't really kill my excitement, because I'm still excited for the games at the end of the day. But when I see lists and leaks, and then you start to be able to check things off the list, it gives the showcases less room to surprise and excite you. To me personally, if I'm looking at the general spectrum of showcases over the last few years, who's put on the biggest bangers? I think it's been Xbox. I think their last two summer showcases, especially last year's, was phenomenal. Last year's showcase was literally one of the best showcases I've ever seen. And I have, based on things I'm hearing, really high expectations for this year's show. I think it's going to be another absolute home run. And I'm very excited because they have a lot of games. And so I think they're going to kill it. I think they're going to deliver probably the best showcase again this year. We'll see, of course. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I think with what's lining up and what deals they have done, this should be a really good one for them. But outside of that, I don't feel like anyone else is really living up to the summer showcase status quo, if you catch my drift. Like, we are admittedly getting diminishing returns. And I think part of it is gauging expectations. Like, for example, again, I don't want this to come across like a response, but just for added clarity, like the reason I didn't lose my mind over State of Play is I went, okay, it's about barely half an hour. This is a State of Play, so it's going to be this short little thing. A couple of games going to be thrown in here. We already know PSVR 2 titles are going to be here. They kind of gave us a briefing on other PlayStation titles there. I didn't hate certain games as much as other people. There are certain ones like Concord that I've gotten more context on. I have to admit, not as crazy about it as I was at first, but I didn't think it looked awful at first. I wasn't like I was hyping it up. But point being is, I think expectation setting is really important. But when you mix that in with leaks and kind of the diminishing returns, the summer showcases, or really just showcases in general, can't really help themselves. And so then you move down the year a little bit more, and Jeff Keighley's kind of pointing to things like, hey, the Game Awards, like that's where we do big reveals. But the problem with the Game Awards, at least last year, and I was very loud, very vocal about it on Twitter and on my YouTube channel, was how unacceptable I thought it was, how that was handled, how it was just blatant marketing and you were shoving devs off the stage. It was completely unacceptable. So now the spot for announcements is also the most ad-loaded place by, I guess, necessity of running the business. It's a very vicious cycle that goes round and round. I don't know if there's really a way out of it. And I don't know if there's a solution. That's kind of not the point of the video, but it's more to spotlight the issue that's here, which is pretty much too long didn't read, is these games are being spread thin across a litany of showcases. And instead of having one or two homes like they used to, which was predominantly Xbox and PlayStation during the E3 days, and then some would also make their way to Nintendo as well, really having those small sets of homes. Now they're spread out across a bunch of different showcases. Keighley kind of serving as this major third-party marker with his millions and millions of views. I mean, it makes sense why people would want to go to Summer Games Fest, but it also makes sense why some people want to go to Xbox, some people want to go to PlayStation, some people would want to go to Nintendo, some people are going to sign publishing deals with other third-party partners. There's so many showcases, and I will say on the note of Xbox, I mean, they serve as an example of how many showcases they have is insane. The Developer Direct, which is phenomenal, by the way, a wonderful format, but they have that. They have the Summer Showcase. They have the third-party showcase. They have the ID at Xbox showcase. They have the Tokyo Games Show showcase. Like, they have a lot of showcases, but to me, that's a little more justifiable because they have so many games in the pipeline. They need a ton of spots to show it all. They can't just show it in one fell swoop in the summer and one fell swoop in the winter and call it a day. I get why they want to spread it out across multiple beats. But that does also serve as the example of just how far spread these announcements can be. And so I think, again, this all leads to diminishing returns. So I don't know. I just wanted to really talk about it here in today's video and get your thoughts on it. What are you feeling about the status of game showcases? Let me know down below. Other than that, we'll be back tomorrow to make our predictions video on what's going to happen across the Xbox family of studios. What games can we expect? With that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.